Hello and welcome to BackChat's new podcast, Back Yourself, where we speak to business leaders and decision makers. This week on the show, Frank Agostino, CEO of Paywise, one of Australia's biggest and largest salary packaging companies. He started as a salesperson deep within the business and then grew his way to the top, but he didn't get there by accident. We talk about constant change, delivering in an industry that's highly competitive, and managing people. It's a great episode. Hope you enjoy. Frank Agostino, welcome to Back Yourself, BackChat's new business podcast. How are you?
Thank you, mate. Yeah, very good.
Mate, we're going to get through your story. I really want this to be a conversational piece and excited to learn a little bit more about you. We've known each other for quite some time. From small beginnings, me punching you on the wing for East Perth.
Very small punch, very small beginnings. Yeah.
To now working really closely together, Paywise and BackChat.
Yep.
You've been our major partner and backer since day one. So I think it's fitting to have you sit down in the hot seat for Back Yourself. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready, yeah. Yeah, as long as it's conversational like you say it is.
Conversational,
not so structured.
Mate. Yeah, conversational. And really, it was really great preparing for this. It's a bit different to our sport stuff that we do over at BackChat. So I'm going to approach it pretty similar way, though. I want to take it back for you to the start. Frank Agostino growing up.
Yes.
What's family life like, and what's your upbringing like?
Family life is stock standard. Mum and dad and two kids, and very close with my younger brother, who I was very fortunate to have that close relationship with him. So my interests were his. So footy, cricket, footy in the winter, cricket in the summer. Very competitive, and dad really hardworking. Dad who leaves early, gets home late, has the plate of pasta ready for him for the time he gets home, and then falls asleep on the couch and does it all again the following day. So, and mum, stay-at-home mum for majority of my childhood, typical Italian mother, smothering and cuddling and those sorts of things, and watching dad as I grew up really moulded the way I suppose my mindset was for right up until this point and hopefully into the future.
Yeah, well, knowing you now, in a little way, I think sport has played a big part in business, and maybe vice versa, business and sport. And so, can you trace that back to your upbringing and your old man, the way he worked, and the way your mum brought you up, and how you are now CEO of a company? Like, can you trace that back to growing up?
Look, I think I can, yeah. And if you dive really deep into it, which in your day-to-day life you get so busy, so you don't actually reflect a hell of a lot. So maybe this will be good for that.
Yeah.
So Dad, like I said, he's a plumber, and from as young as I can remember, he's the hardest worker that I've ever come across. I'm not blessed with a hell of a lot of ability. So the things that I did, even in my footy career, I made sure that I was working really hard. I've got this really simple mindset that if I wake up, a couple of hours earlier than everyone else, I'm in front of them by 10 hours a week. And 10 hours is a lot when it comes to running a business. And I'm very fortunate that whilst, that 10 hours for myself is a bit of a leg up, what I find within business and with most leaders is if people lower in the org chart, what they do is they start copying and following. And there are a lot of transferables from footy to business. So if you think about yourself as a footballer, that the harder you work, luckier you get, right? So there's number one. The other one is that like the discipline, the motivation, the teamwork. That if Will Schofield's playing the game of his life, you can still lose a game. Sorry, mate, you're not Wayne Carey, but that's very much the case.
Cheers, Frank. Thanks.
It's very much.
Neither of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that for that to happen, like within business, you need plenty of people pulling in that same direction, and you don't want to let your teammates down. There's another transferable. So we've got 200 staff within Paywise who've got this really hungry, motivated attitude. And there's this bit of this stigma about footballers at Paywise. We may have 10 to 15, but we've also got, lots of diversity within the business. But the footballers are the ones that get the publicity, and they're the ones that, I find that, given what they've done in their footy world, they can bring that mindset and that mentality into our business, and it actually makes a lot of people better.
Yeah. I mean, we'll jump around a bit, but just staying on that, it sounds like it's less about who they are or what they've done, footy or whatever, and who they are and their mindset, their work rate that you need in sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you look at someone, let's pluck a couple of names. Drew Petrie's one of them. He's come into our business. Looking at Drew Petrie on field, you think that, you know, the Frank the Tank thing, getting in wrestles, all those sorts of things, you think, oh, well, what have we got here? But genuinely the single nicest human you'll ever come across. And what that does is that when he comes into a business like ours, is that people want to turn up to work and be around Drew Petrie, right? And even, you know, Hammer, we joke about Hammer and how he's jovial and happy-go-lucky and those sorts of things. But when he gets to work, he's an absolute competitor. He wants to be the best. And we've got, you know, Hammer at work who's got that funny side to him, which actually brings, you see when Hammer walks through the office, people around him sort of rise a little bit and they're happy to be around Hammer. So we've got a lot of people, I've singled 2 footballers there, but then you go over to, say, like a Gary Kibbettson, who is very much in the Drew Petrie mould. He's a director of sales for our whole group. And he's not your traditional salesperson. Like you've met Gary Kibbettson. Gary Kibbettson is, we have a little bit of a joke at work. He's like the therapy dog. So if anyone's ever feeling escalated or a bit sensory overload, Garrick's the person to go to because he just calms you, brings you right down back to a level, and so methodical, so measured, so calculated. So whilst we've got these guys that have played football and these personalities, they all bring some really good qualities into our group.
So bringing it back though to your upbringing, and that sounds like some of your values, you know, you're trying to impart on your staff by how you act. So who are you following? Your old man, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to, you know, work ethic, values and how you treat people. So my dad's 64 or 65, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but Dad's still working now. And the reason why Dad's still working, he told me a story a few months ago, and a little old lady needed a hot water system replaced. And the lady got a quote for $2,500, $3,000 or something, and Dad rocked up and she told him this story. And she said, Dad said, just, you know, like the hot water system cost $800. I just got a couple of $100 off, and I was happy. That's enough. It only took me a couple of hours and I was done. So Dad is always that person that really, really looks after people, really takes himself out of his shoes, puts themselves into their shoes. Like he's that sort of guy, really kind, caring nature, and will do absolutely anything for anyone. And in return, what Dad gets, and I don't know if he realises this, but he's got people falling over to help him as well. So he builds this bucket of trust where every now and again he'll dip back into the bucket if he needs something, and that's maybe a little bit Italian, I suppose. Like that's the Italian way of living, where we help each other out, and family's quite big. So
you embody that. I've been around you long enough to those things you're saying about your dad. That's what you do. So that's who you've learned it off. I was going to ask you about mentors and people you've learned off, and I'm sure there's others, but I think about my upbringing. It's the same. It starts at home.
Yeah,
and that's something that, do you actively do that, or do you just think that's nature or nurture?
I think it'd be an absolute effort to try and do it all the time, but because I've lived it for so long and I watched Dad grow up and the way he treated his family, friends, us, like we were so lucky as kids to have a dad as we did, that it sort of becomes second nature, and then, like as I got into business life, I come across another gentleman, Eric Kane, who's a really good mate of mine now. And he taught me the values and the benefits of looking after clients and members, right? So, and then that progressed into something that I've sort of built myself in my mind as to the way we treat our clients and members. So Eric was very much get things done quickly, make sure you put member first, and give good levels of customer service. And Eric has very similar values to my dad in the way that he treats people. So it all, like, I was very lucky. I've gone from having Dad around to going straight into business and then having Eric around. There was a little gap in between there that maybe you want to talk about at some stage. But essentially I had Dad to Eric, where I was very lucky.
We'll get into that. I want to bring you back on the 10 hours a week. I find that really interesting. Not that I've heard that from you, but I've seen it. I was invited to it's like 4:30 a.m. gym session, which was fine. Like I got through it, haven't been back.
Didn't look fine.
Speak for yourself, Frank. So, because that's what is that? A daily? Is that a daily gym? You got Pickers and Garrick, who are two of your leaders in your business, doing that.
Yep.
That's something that you bring in. Like I didn't know that was your mindset. Was like, if I'm getting up earlier and working earlier, I'm in front of people.
A lot of business leaders have these recurring meetings, right? So something that I don't necessarily love are these weekly meetings that you go for half an hour and then you get to the end of a meeting and you go, right, what did we talk about? And I just see it in everyone's calendars, and it's something I try rein in within our business, is just having these structured meetings, right? So I'd much rather, in my mind, and might not be for everyone, is to do the casual social thing. So like even the meetings I have with staff, if I do have a meeting, we'll go for a walk around the block. So it's active, fresh air, those sorts of things. And I truly believe myself, Garrick and Pickers, those examples you gave, are much better for training in the morning. I think we get there at 5:15, and we do a session together. And a lot of the time we're talking about family, friends, footy, whatever the common subject is. But then there'll be a little bit of work there in sort of 20 or 30 minutes of the session, and that's organic. Like that's not in a structured office environment where the guys are just thinking about work and only work. Yes. Right. So I'm very fortunate to have a really good relationship with those two gents. Two of the best humans I've come across, and I classify them as two of my best mates. But the gym sessions certainly help that, and it blows off a lot of steam. So by the time you get into work, again, like we're at work at sort of 6:30, 7 a.m. every day. And we've got a head start on some of our competitors. And getting back to the footy thing, like you're always competing with other businesses. And I always think to myself, whether this is right or wrong, what is the CEO of one of our competitors doing? Is he up this early, or are they up this early? Are they at work this early? You know, how much are they doing on Saturday or Sunday? Because I'm not blessed with the ability, Scully, of maybe some of those other CEOs. Given where I've come from, I don't have an education really. Like I came into this job through hard work.
Right. Oh, this is good. I'm enjoying this because I want to jump around so much. So to stay on that, do you look at what other people are doing much? Like, and again, I'm nowhere near what you guys are doing, but I think about what we do here at BackChat, and looking at others can sometimes be a hindrance, like probably more than helpful. And I've taken action to actually stop looking at what everyone's doing and just get to work and do what we do well. Where do you sit on that? Are you constantly looking at what others are doing? Are you internally focused? What is it?
Yeah, I think so. From a high performing team aspect, in my mind, and again, this might be right or wrong, but in my mind, the way I see it is that if you want to be a high performing team, you need to look outside the window and go, right, what are they doing and how do we compare? And vice versa, if you're getting someone from outside looking at you and going, shit, they're the benchmark, like we want to be better than them. That's that game that you play. And I'm sure, like if you relate it to footy, if you look at some of these high performing teams, and I was listening to something around the Geelong Footy Club where there's lots of talk around, where teams are going to finish, where's Freo going to finish. Like Geelong, you never hear much about Geelong Footy Club. They just do what they do. They probably will finish top 4, top 8, and they'll keep doing what they're doing in this era that they're in. Now, I am sure that other footy clubs outside look at Geelong and go, right, what are they doing?
Yeah.
We need to be better at this, this and this. And it's same in business. Like I look at some businesses outside of like in our industry, and I think that's a really good marketing campaign. How can we better that? Because if you don't become that high performing team. Like you're arrogant to think that you're doing things the best all the time. To get that constant growth, you need to be looking outside the window. I think.
Oh, that's a good answer. So let's go back to your kind of your journey and like honestly, love to hear about your waffle career, but we're going to just park that for a
So it
moment.
doesn't go for long.
Good footballer in your day, I must say. You tagged me one day, which was good effort on your behalf. But let's stay in business. Do you want to clip me as well?
Sort of. This is business world.
You can. You can clip me if you want.
If we're in it, it was the softest punch I've ever received.
Right.
I don't even remember it.
It dropped you. Might have been unconscious.
Mate, I played at 78 kilos. Everyone would drop me.
I was at 76.
Oz kickers would have dropped me.
I was at 76. Yeah. So, okay, talk about your dad to Eric. I think I've met. I'm sure I've met Eric.
You have met Eric. Yep.
So, the transition of like mentorship and how that actually equates to like your actual business journey. You said you don't have much of an education.
Yeah.
Like, so how did you go? Where did you start, and how did you move up?
Yeah,
so that's a long question. But.
So as a younger guy, I was as most kids, you have this dream of playing AFL footy, and I spent a couple of years at West Coast training in like pre-season, and then even pre-rookie draft and those sorts of things. So I spent the 2 years doing that, and then I got to 22 years old, and I didn't get picked up. So when that happened, I always had in my head that I was just going to play AFL footy, and stupidly, that was probably the wrong way to be. And the thing about mum and dad is that they were always so positive on the fact that keep working hard. And sometimes you're just not good enough. I think I was in between that sort of waffle and AFL sort of level. Better waffle footballer, obviously not up to the level of AFL. So when it come to the time where I realised I wasn't good enough, knee reconstruction at 22, I got a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Bronte Howson, who headed up ASG at the time, and he's also the president at East Perth. And I'd just done the knee, and he called me. He said, "Frank, what are you going to do now?" And I think at the time I was playing PlayStation, so I think I responded.
Trying to level up on 2K.
Well, right now I'm just hanging at home, and I hadn't really thought about much, Scully. And I'm 22, 23, so I'm getting to the age where I need to really consider what's next. My brother at the time was spray painter, and like I said earlier in the piece, I got a really good relationship with my brother. And Bronte said, "Look, I want you to do a trade, figure out what you want to do. I'll give you a call tomorrow." So shit, okay. I started thinking about it, spoke to my brother, spoke to mum and dad. Mum and dad agreed that I needed to do something, which was quite obvious. The next day, Bronte, as he said, anyone that knows Bronte Howson, if he says he's going to do something, he always does it. Incredible person. Called me the next day and he said, "Frank, what have you thought about?" I said, "Mate, well, sort of a day's notice. My brother's a painter. Maybe one day we can open up a paint shop and I'll become a panel beater." He goes, "Yep, sure, leave it with me." Calls me later that day and he says, "Right, you're starting at North City Holden tomorrow in the panel shop. Go and see Doug Scorer," who was essentially my first ever boss.
Right.
Who I actually had dinner with a couple of weeks ago, who I've caught up with. A fantastic human, one of my favourite bosses that I've ever had. But anyway, Doug, I rolled in on the crutches because I just had the Rico. And his first comment to me, he looked at me, he goes, "Oh my God, one of Bronte's babies, is it?" "Go and sit over there for 2 weeks. When you're ready to work, just let me know." So I literally sat there for 2 weeks, Scully. This is my panel beating apprenticeship. And then at the end of a couple of weeks, still obviously after knee Rico, you're still hobbling around, I started my panel beating apprenticeship.
Right.
So for those that don't know, a panel beating apprenticeship, your first year apprentice is sweeping floors, you're emptying bins, you're doing all those tasks that no one else wants to do. So I did that for 4 years and fortunately was still playing at East Perth. Obviously missed that year with the Rico, but then came back the next year. And what was happening is obviously now, as you know, like my knees like deteriorating at this point. And so at 24, 25, I was coming to the end of my apprenticeship and I called Bronte again. I said, "Look, I love panel beating, love it. And thank you so much for the opportunity. But like, I need to pick footy or work. I can't do both because rolling around in bog dust and that sort of stuff at work, I can't do both." And Bronte said, "Yep, sure, leave it with me. I'll sort you out." The next day he calls me. He goes, "Mate, you're starting with Paul Simmons, ex-Eagles player, up in fleet management. So you're essentially selling cars to like leasing companies like Fleet Network and Paywise or big businesses." I was like, "Bronte, I've never Like, I'm a panel beater. And I played footy before that. I don't know how to sell cars. He goes, don't worry about it, mate. We'll give you some accounts and you'll be fine. And Scratch Simo will help you. So, okay. So from there, I walked into Doug's office, my boss at the time, and he had his head in his hands. He was really upset. We forged a really good relationship. He goes, oh, you're leaving me, are you, mate? I was like, I'm sorry, Doug. I would have spoken to you about it, but navigated through that. Been really good mates ever since. And then I started it literally out of the panel shop clothes into the next day I'm in dressed like this in a shirt and business pants. And I started selling cars, but I didn't really have to sell cars because I had these accounts. So I really had to just service people. And that's where the first thing that Dad taught was just looking after people, do what you say you're going to do, keep giving. And I got pretty good at it. And in the next 12 months, one of the accounts we had was Fleet Network.
Right.
So I was supplying cars to Fleet Network, and the boss at the time said to me, he goes, mate, I really love the way you go about it. Can we have a chat? So I went and seen him. And I couldn't leave Bronte at that point. But I called Bronte. I said, mate, look, I'll just let you know I got offered this job. I'm not going to take it, but thank you. I really appreciate what you've done. So if you hear along the grapevine, mate, you need to take it. That's a really good opportunity. You should take it. And that just speaks volumes as to what Bronte Howson is like. He's always elevated his people that he cares about, put him in positions, but never held them back, which he's done with a fellow by the name of Paul Johnson, same sort of thing. He's done the same thing. Jono's now running Ellenbrook Toyota. So yes. Bronte's always elevated people in a similar way to say what Eric Kane did, the same way that Dad did with me early days. So I've ended up at Fleet Network, and 10 years on, we've done some pretty cool things. So
Fleet Network is now Paywise, and It's all together now.
Yep.
But you started at Fleet Network as a salesman or as a customer serviceman? Or do you have the same thing?
It was the title was leasing consultant. So my primary role is to set up novated leases, right? So I got, and this is sort of a little bit around how our business goes about this now, is that we spend a lot of time, effort, resources getting leads, like novated leads, salary packaging leads. So we get them in. And then once they're in, we treat them like absolute gold, so that the experience that they get is next level. So once they're in, they stay in. But we're still doing all this marketing over here, right? So treating all these customers with our brand promise is highly personalised service and care in the fastest response times imaginable, right? And then you're still doing all this marketing and this lead generation over here. So you just keep building that bucket.
So talking to a few people along the way, one of your attributes early days was you'd give your effectively, like, I guess might be your personal number to clients and stuff, and perspectives as well, and say anytime anything goes wrong, call me, text me. Probably not text back in the day.
Facts.
But you were available at 24/7.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the calls, I remember Sasha used to say very early days, why are you taking that call? Well, it was from Dad, right? Like Dad, the way he was, the way Eric was.
It's like 10 o'clock at night and car broken down. Or that sort of stuff. Like what sort of crazy stuff? Was it crazy stuff? I don't know.
People broken down, remote Darwin. I had one lady that had her car washed away in a stream. She tried to cross a stream and the car, washed away, and she ended up on the roof of the car. And then she had to be, helicoptered out. So that sort of stuff there. Why
are they calling you?
Because at the very start of the novated lease, at the very start of the novated lease, if you think about the novated lease journey, and you've got a novated lease, is that setting it up's the easy part, right? And this is a mistake I made early in my career. I put so much emphasis on setting up the novated lease and get as many novated lease deals as we can. But that's literally, you can set up a novated lease in 10 to 15 minutes. If it's a 5-year term, that's a lot of time for things, A, to go wrong if it's not managed correctly, or if they haven't got that personalised service. So when I said before, highly personalised service and care, at the start of a lease, and I gave this advice to a couple of guys last week or the week before, give them your personal number. Hamish Brayshaw, Hamish, get them to put your number in their phone as Hamish Carr. So if anything goes wrong with a car, it could be absolutely anything, you're the person they call, right? And it's pretty powerful when that can happen, because that person knows that you really care, genuinely care about the rest of their novated lease, not just at the start, but the rest of their novated lease. And it goes to that, spend all that money on leads to come in, but when they're in and they stay in because you absolutely care. Highly personalised service and care.
When you start with Fleet Network, now Paywise, do you want to be CEO? Do you have ambitions for
No, you got to remember, I'm a panel beater.
Yeah,
right?
great.
Essentially a panel beater.
That doesn't mean you didn't have ambition.
Look, at the time, I didn't know. But as I thought that I become really good at it, and I embodied a lot of that personalised service, and I could see some, us kicking some goals. I started getting involved in, with Eric about some strategic direction and those sorts of things. And then I started getting a real appetite for, hey, this stuff here is actually what I really love. So I never lose the focus on what's important in terms of making sure that we treat our members with absolute highly personalised service and care in fast response times. But the strategic direction is completely different. So whilst we've got that brand promise, everything around, like our marketing, our IT, our customer service centre, which I'm really, really, really proud of, everything that we do gets back to highly personalised service and care and fast response times. So I didn't initially have the ambition. It might have been, within 12 to 18 months where I thought, I really enjoy this stuff, more so than selling novated lease deals. But I got to a point where I was, doing a lot of novated lease deals. So the size of the business, we only had 15 staff back then, Scully. So if I stepped out of novated lease selling, well, then we struggle to find someone else because we were running really skinny. Yes. Now, if someone goes away that's a high performer, you got 200 people, we're really well covered. It's a very different business.
So we've talked a fair bit about not success, but things that have gone well. What do you look back early days at yourself and go, like, what was I actually doing there? Do you do that
all the time, mate? And all the time. There's
what
many.
What sort of things? So people will be listening and they don't know Frank Agostino like I do. What sort of things do you look back and go,
cringe?
Yeah, or mistakes?
Well, I set a car on fire in the first 4 weeks of my panel beating, Chris. There's one.
It's not in the manual.
Thank God for Bronte. Being one of Bronte's babies, it helped. Otherwise, I think I would have been out the door. Welding spark flew out and set fire to a car seat, so that wasn't ideal.
What about like person to person?
Lots of like customer, not so much. Like I'm huge on the mentality that every single issue can be fixed, and if it costs a bit of money to fix it to save reputation, just get it done. Especially if you can put your hand on your heart and say, yeah, we played a part in setting that up wrong or delaying the process or whatever it was.
Yes.
Get it fixed, get it sorted, move on. Because that person probably works next to someone else who has heard about the experience that you have. Now, humans are pretty good. Humans realise, like, if you make a mistake and you fix it, they're pretty good in most cases. But if you don't, well, then that word spreads like wildfire. But
what sits with you? I guarantee you have something that, like, geez, I
made some recruitment recruitment mistakes a lot in the past, and especially early days where I focused on ability rather than person. So now we do it the other way around, Scully, and the people that we're bringing in. Like I've got a friend that's just started today who some of his values just typify everything that we're trying to. So I know that the impact he's going to have, Steve Borman, the impact he's going to have in this business will be massive. We hired another lady sort of close to 12 months ago, Renee Healy, who again worked within WA Police, WA Health. He's got some seriously good values as a person, knew nothing about salary packaging or novated leasing, same as Steve. But the people they are, they typify the way we want to go about it. Now, a lot of the mistakes that we made back in the day were hiring people that are guns in the industry, and it's not necessarily the best way to go about it, I think. And so I made a lot of mistakes in that regard.
Right. So, do you learn by doing, or You got someone teaching you the way? Are you
Made a bit of both. So I'll talk a little bit to the model we have at Paywise, and like in an organisation, you've got an org chart, right? And in our case, the board and myself and the CEO sit at the top, right? And it filters down into the lower level of the org chart. Now, in our world, what we do is we flip the org chart upside down. I don't know if you've ever heard of the flipped model, right? So my job is to serve up to Steve Giorgio, who is the CEO of the group, and to Peter Jordan. So if I'm constantly asking them, what do you need to make this happen? Or our IT guy. When I first got to Paywise, Mike Waite had incredible challenges of having the resources and money to, build a client base, because as soon as you start scaling, the first thing you need to be across is your IT. And now we hadn't touched IT for a number of years at Paywise. Now all of a sudden he's got as many resources that he needs to build a team and B, a system, right? So we're very fortunate in the way that we go about it, is that throughout the whole organisation, we flip the org chart upside down. We just serve up to our people. And it's pretty powerful, Scully. Like if you're doing that in an organisation where you can flip it and go, right, Mike, what do you need? Renee Healy, what do you need? Tell me what you need to do your job. And I suppose if you relate that back to footy, it's essentially what's happening at a footy club in a lot of cases, or a lot of the good footy clubs, is that you've got specialist coaches and those sorts of things that probably sit higher. Like Luke Shuey would sit higher than Harley Reid, but I'm sure he's just feeding Harley with some tools and some resources as to how to get better.
Yeah, okay. So what about growing the business? So you come in as a sales guy, Fleet Network, to where you are now, Paywise, national company, expanding rapidly. Yep. Is that how we describe where Paywise is?
Oh, yeah, we are.
Now?
Yeah, we are, and for lots of reasons, yeah.
So, I don't know, what makes you, what gives you the go-ahead to make that jump from Fleet Network, Perth-based company, to scaling?
Yeah, there's a lot of growing pain. Like, let me assure you that as much as the growth has come at a rapid rate, there's been lots of growing pain in that. And where I've been really fortunate is that something we did about a year and a half ago is that we bought into Paywise. And you speak about some of the mistakes I've made in the past, is I wish we did it earlier. Because to give you a bit of background, we had Carwise and Fleet Network, who are purely novated lease companies, right? So they're really, in my mind, they're really good at selling novated leases. But I said earlier in the conversation, managing a novated lease is in my mind now the most important thing. As a leasing consultant, that first part came really natural to me.
Yeah.
And the mistakes I made is I didn't put enough emphasis on that back office part. So as I got further into my career, I realised, hey, I need to sharpen up a lot here. And a lot of, like I say that really flippantly, but I made a lot of mistakes in the past, sort of 10 years ago, where I cared too much about that piece and not enough about the back office. So I've probably completely flipped now to the other way, where 80% of the thing I care about is that back office, because I know that that's the thing that keeps existing clients. When I first rocked up to Paywise, they had 45-minute call wait times, and that's pretty stock standard in our industry, Scully, is that now it's at 36 seconds, right? So if you call Paywise, you get answered within 36 seconds, and we're moving to a 24/7 call center. All those things that we're doing is for the member and the benefit. So rolling back to your question, the mistakes I made, a lot of it was from just being too sales focused, right, to now having that.
I've asked you this question before. How do you know what you're doing? Frank Agostino, CEO of Paywise.
Hey, mate, in a lot of cases, I can assure you, I don't. And if you say that you know everything, you're kidding yourself. You really, really are.
It's a broad question, right? Like, 100%. How do you know what you're doing?
Well, so if you think about the business and the sectors of the business that we have, the CFO that I've got, I've just surrounded myself with subject matter experts, right? So I don't have to know absolutely everything about financial reporting, or absolutely everything about IT, or absolutely everything about business development. I suppose it's my job, using that flipped model that I spoke about, is just enabling the Peter Jordans of the world, our CFO, Peter Antoniazzi, our Director of Business Development, Gary Kibbettson, Director of Sales. Give them as much resource as we can to make sure they're the subject matter experts. So I don't know a hell of a lot about a lot, to be honest, but I think what I have been okay at is building a team around me who are very good at what they do, and they work, and the personality of the person means that they work really well with each other. They've got respect for each other, they care for each other, and we've got this really nice atmosphere and culture within Paywise that people say, oh, you know, you've got a great workplace culture, flippantly. People say they give good customer service, flippantly. But when you start saying highly personalised service and care in the fastest response times imaginable, and we actually apply that to not only the member base or the client base when I talk about the employer, we apply it to each other. Right? So it becomes pretty powerful rather than, you know, red tape and people having to jump through hoops to get something done, which some of our competitors may be doing. Whereas in our world, things happen quickly. So I don't know a hell of a lot about a lot, but the people around me do. And that's where I suppose my job is just to keep them happy and give them the right tools to make their patch work.
Who holds you accountable then? You might say the board, but less business decision making and more like probably what this conversation is about, more like your moral standing, your decisions you make, but again, like not decisions a board would pull you up on or hold you accountable, checks and crosses. Who's holding you personally? Like Frank Agostino. Is it your wife? Is it your dad?
Oh, 100%. Both of those two, yeah.
Is it brother? Yep. Is it mentor? Like who does it?
Both of those two.
Or yourself?
Yeah, a combination, Scully. So like when it comes to, you know, life stuff and like I'll call Dad and we'll be just talking, you know, we talk most days, Dad. And we'll be talking and he'll throw something in that I'll hang up the phone and I'll have a think about it and I'll go, well, we'll probably apply that to that. And like, so he doesn't actually know what he's doing, but given his moral standpoint in a lot of things, and there's been lots of things that have happened over the last 10 years where Dad has sort of dropped something and I've related it to the other, like Sasha worked in the business 10 years ago. So Sasha understands the business, so understands how hard I work, understands the mentality about how I'm, you know, first one there most days and make sure that I, you know, work hard. She knows that and she supports that. And I hear a lot of people like struggle with that work-life balance, but Sasha's very, very accommodating to the fact that she knows that, like, for me to be good at what I do, I need to go over and above because I have come from a long way back.
Sasha's your wife, for those listening on.
Yeah.
Right.
But then obviously I've got, you know, from a numbers standpoint, like I've got the board to answer to and that's fine. But I do, mate, and again, without going over footy on it, we do focus a lot on our process, and our process is making sure that each of those sectors are high performing, and that sort of just takes care of itself. So redirecting the board sometimes and having them sort of more look at what we're doing and how we're doing rather than the result is pretty important.
What's some other gold nuggets you can share? And you might not know them as gold nuggets, but like the 10 hours a week, that's a gold nugget for me.
Is it? Yeah.
What about things you've learnt from others that you think about often that in business you go, yep, I like that, or that's been imparted on me and I try to impart on others?
Yep.
Give me a couple.
Other than what I've already said, a lot of my day-to-day comes from, like I said, what Dad's taught in the past. And just watching and learning. So, like, I think the biggest gold nugget that you can think is to not think that you're doing everything the best way you possibly can. Like, no one can really ever say that, Scully. I hear it all the time. But the constant improvement on things. And, like, for example, like when I first came into Paywise, I knew nothing about IT and didn't know how important it was. And I still don't know a hell of a lot. I'm constantly reading and learning about everything to do with IT, so I can have a conversation about IT and learn how to grow that particular part of the business, or give Mike the tools that he needs to grow that particular part of the business. So just constantly thinking of ways to get better, which comes pretty naturally to someone like you, mate, is just having that in your mindset. You're not doing everything the best way you can, ever. You might think you are, but you're usually probably not.
What about hard conversations and hard decisions?
Yep.
It sounds dumb coming out of my mouth, but do you find them difficult, or is that something that you enjoy about the job? You know, I'm sure you've hired and fired people. You've had conversations.
Can I tell you, I've never fired anyone in my life.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yep. And that's probably frowned upon in a way.
Probably.
No, it certainly is. But what we do, and my mindset is that you set a level, right? So you've got this group full of people on the bus, and you set this level, this expectation of what you want to do, how you want to go about it. A leadership code, and our leadership code has some really clear standards that we expect, and all the leaders have got it on their desk, right? So the leaders are expected to stand by that code, and they do a fantastic job at doing that. And what it does, it filters through the rest of the business SCOE. So what we do is we set this standard, right? And if the standard isn't met in terms of negative talk, undermining, those sorts of poor traits, if we hear that stuff, we stamp it out. And people, what they do is that if they can't keep up with the pace, or they can't keep up with the code and the way that we go about it, they drop off.
They leave.
They're like a fish out of water in our business. So we don't have, choice of better words, we have a no dickhead policy, but we actually have a no dickhead policy. We're very, very fortunate where getting back to our recruitment, the mistakes I made in the past, we may have had some in the past. Like when I first came on, I hired guns, hired high achievers, but now we're hiring people who are genuinely good people that want to be on that bus and fulfilling that leadership code.
Same question, but the hard decision element. Do you follow like a process, or are you a gut feel? Are you heavy data? Are you leaning on people to? I can't give you an example of a hard decision you have to make, but if you think about hard decisions you've made in business, what sort of operator are you in?
So
I'm going to give us some aircon as well. Frank.
Thank you. Is my head glossing up?
No, not yet.
It's probably. So we report weekly SCOE, and most businesses our size will report quarterly or report monthly. Now, the fact that we report weekly, what it does is you can see trends as they happen, right? So to be able to shift and be nimble, like you can do it very, very quickly if you're reporting weekly, but if you're doing it monthly, so it takes you a month, you sort of, you don't have a real handle of what's going on week to week. So each of the business sectors provides a weekly report. I have a look at it with my COO, and we review with the financial controller as well. We have a look at it, and then once that week's over, we can make quick decisions based on how the business is tracking. And I'm a firm believer of if I have to make or any of the leadership group have to make a decision and it's a surprise, we haven't communicated well enough. Right? So like our business is about high communication. And if I ever get grumpy, it's usually around each other not communicating well enough. It's never about the result. It's never about, we haven't signed enough deals this week or anything like that. It's, hey, let's run it right back. What have our behaviours been like? And have a look at, so for a novated lease consultant, we don't focus on the amount of deals they do. We focus on the amount of tasks that they perform, right? Because if they're performing a high amount of tasks, they've got more chance of selling novated leases. Or in the call centre, customer sentiment, member sentiment is one of our biggest things. The average speed to answer, are we getting to clients quick enough? Are we getting to members quick enough? So we really focus on the behaviour rather than the outcome.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. I wanted to ask around the culture side. You've spoken a fair bit about it, and the no dickhead policy, we've got that in here too. We call it no bullshit, basically.
Yep.
And I'd rather say a bad word than put up with bullshit, basically.
Yep.
Is that dictated by behaviour or I'm sure you have your yearly sit down and you come up with what you want to be defined by, but what's your actual stance on company culture? Because that gets thrown around in sport a lot.
Oh, mate, it does.
Culture.
It does.
Right? And bad culture, good culture, whatever it is. What do you think about culture, and how's it actually?
It's got to be organic, SCOE, right? So if it's people pick up on bullshit straight away. So unless you're absolutely organic and authentic, like it needs to be all those things. Now, when we've talked about Paywise, BCarWise, Fleet Network, 3 different businesses. So to bring 3 different businesses together, like people may think, oh, we've got a little bit of the Fleet Network culture, we've probably got a lot of the BCarWise and a little bit of the Paywise. But what we've done is we've created a new culture. So when we first got to Paywise, we did a survey, right? So we did a survey across the whole group, across the whole 3 businesses. And the survey went out, and noting that like the leadership group had just bought Paywise, so we didn't know what really happened at the Paywise workplace before we bought it. We did a survey, and it was an engagement survey, and the results, like in a way, like they were okay, but they, a lot of what came out of it was, one of the questions we asked was quite pointy, is that, do you think anything will happen as a result of this survey? And it was an overwhelming no. And I'm talking 70, 80% of people thought that nothing's going to happen after this survey.
Interesting.
And that was like a knife in the back, because we just bought this business and not knowing what happened before. So from that point till now, all we've done is make sure that we shifted that. And then the last survey we did, it flipped back the other way with staff. So in all of those survey responses, we picked 10 things as to, some low-hanging fruit where we can go, right, we're changing this, and this, and this, right? And we did that. We worked really hard as a leadership group. It's all we ever spoke about, and we're still doing that today. Now, one of the other parts of the survey was, like, I got really, like, it made me feel good because I'd already shifted down this path, is that probably, Scully, 90% of the people honestly don't give a shit how many novated leases we sell. 90% of people want to be proud for working for Paywise. So a lot of the community work that we do, a lot of the work we do within our employer client base is around community stuff, and the stuff we do with footy clubs, sporting clubs, junior sports clubs, all those sorts of things there. That's so much more important to the people that work at Paywise, or in most organisations, than selling novated lease deals. Like, they actually don't care that much about that. But if you focus on that and focus on how to, make Paywise a destination club, destination business, like a Geelong footy club, for example. Like everyone wants to play for Geelong, don't they?
Yeah.
Why do they want to play for Geelong? Like that's the thing. So we found that the reason why people want to work for Paywise is because of all that good stuff we're doing away from actually selling novated lease and salary packages. So we put a real big emphasis on that.
Hardest lesson you've learnt in business?
Probably relationships strained at the very start of my career. Like I came to Fleet Network as a 25, 26-year-old, and then I was CEO by 33, 34. So I was a really young CEO. So whilst I had, mentors and people guiding and helping, I strained a lot of relationships because I was so bullish very early, trying to make a difference. Now, what I'll do is I'll step back and actually let others make decisions and then refine if I need to. But surrounding myself with really good people, like I've done within the whole group, and executive leaders, and we've got some great ones. We've got, maybe a little bit biased, but we've got some fantastic people within our organisation. No, work life, because the expectation of
the
extra
pace you're setting.
Yeah, the extra 10 hours a week. Not everyone wants to do that, mate. Like, I think in business you've got A graders, B graders, C graders, and you need all 3, right? So you got the C graders who bring something completely different to an A grader. If you have a room full of A graders, what it does, it just it probably blows up because you got all these people similar to myself, just 100 miles an hour, right? But the C graders can sometimes be a little bit more methodical. They can, they think through things. So very early days, I was like, why isn't he an A grader? Why isn't she an A grader? What's going on? Why are they moving so slow? Why can't they do that quick? And that strained a lot of relationships, right? So when you think about, we had some previous people that worked in finance and novated lease management, that my expectation on them was far too great, considering A, what they were getting paid, Like they weren't getting paid like an executive. Like they were getting paid as a 60, 70 grand a year, 80 grand a year sort of admin person. And the expectation on them can't be what it is for an exec leader. So I had real issues navigating through that.
So how did you? What is it? Just time, or did you something specific?
Yeah,
did you have some
time.
feedback?
Eric was really good with this sort of stuff. Where he said to me, mate, you're going to be a one-person business if you keep carrying on the way you're carrying on.
Right.
And he's much like you. He hits you between the eyes and tells you exactly how it is. And I needed it and now we're at the level we're at. Like it's 150% true where you have to have all types. So
I was going to ask that. Has anyone looked in your eye and said, you're not doing this well? Need to straighten up, sonny?
Mate, I every day I watch people like myself come in, 25-year-old Frank come in, and I appreciate it because I know what's going through their head, and I say, I take them for the walk around the block, and we discuss things, and we get to the end point, and I disclose how I was, because I think, like, in my mind, to be a role model, you need to have struggled in certain ways yourself, and I certainly did that very early days with the way I was with back office staff and those sorts of things. And I've talked about it a lot today. It is clearly my biggest regret in the way that I conducted myself in my 20s. And I probably, when you did something pretty averagely, pretty badly early days, you've tried so hard to rectify later in life, and that's certainly what I'm doing in that part of the world.
But do you think you'd be where you are now if you weren't like that? Because it's all good to sort of look back and reflect and be, I shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that, but you also learn from lessons, right?
100%.
As in mistakes and things you stuff up. So do you think you'd be sitting where you are now, doing what you're doing now, if you weren't like that in the first place?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying.
Probably not.
No, I don't think it would be. But you do go through a bit of pus and pain to get to that point. So whilst, it's in most cases, most mistakes you make, you learn from and you get better from it. That's quite clear. And fortunately, some of those mistakes I have been able to rectify and focus on.
Walk around the block, is that a strategy? Like Steve Jobs, I've read a fair bit of his stuff. He used to do a lot of his work on the walk.
Yeah. I think I might, I'm undiagnosed, but I think I might have a bit of ADD. So sitting in a room, like even now, I'm starting to think I'd love to go for a walk. Can we do this whilst we go for a walk?
Take it on the road.
So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things. I feel if you get people outside of the office, they feel much more comfortable to talk about things, some fresh air. Like we sit at our desk all day, right? And I do genuinely believe a lot of the good work actually comes from a social setting or like a gym session, or I'd 100% love for all of my meetings to be on the road and on walking through the streets, but unfortunately some of them have to be via Teams and whatever else. But it is certainly something I try and encourage others to do as well.
Same vein, if someone's listening along and they're young, they're 20, 22, 23, what advice would you give them? But if you can pair it into, what advice would you give yourself at that age?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same thing, someone else or yourself, but what would you, no matter if they wanted to be a CEO or if they just wanted to do well in regular life, what advice would you give?
It's 100% surrounding yourself with people that are smarter and cleverer than you, and just trying to get the maximum amount of, it's essentially like if my best trait is my work ethic, is trying to get them to a level where they're comfortable without blowing them up, right? So it's a pretty nice combination, right? Having that ability and that and that intellect to be able to perform the job at the highest level, and then add that work ethic to it. The advice I'd give to people that way: surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and can do the job better than you. Never be insecure to hire someone that that would make you insecure. Like that, you hire the person because they're really good at what they're doing. And realistically, as a CEO, I'm judged on the business performance. So why wouldn't you hire the best possible people? And the other thing is working harder than the next person is the thing that I was very, very fortunate, like I said, with Dad, to learn from him, and surrounding yourself with those sorts of people.
Nick this off a bit. Can you, we're almost done by the way, Frank. You can stand up and go for a run soon. Can you teach work rate and work ethic then? if you hire on people and you're leaving, can that be taught, or is that ingrained?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it was ingrained for me because I'd seen it growing up, right?
But what if you got a great person that their work ethic?
I've got one that I think of, right? And I'll drop in. He won't mind this. If I look at Adam Pickering, the last thing that Pickers would have done 10 years ago or 5 years ago before he started with us is wake up at 5:15 and go to the gym. So just changing that mindset, waking up early and getting to the gym. And he comes 3 days a week. He should be coming 5, but that's another that's another conversation. It's a different podcast in itself. But he turns up 3 days a week. And what you see is, because he's doing that, it sets the mind for the rest of the day to be at a level. So it might not have come naturally to him to start with, but he certainly does it now. And there's plenty of people like that within the business. And
so the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
habits.
I think so. If someone genuinely cares about their job and their personal well-being and those sorts of things, I probably unfairly tie them together, right? So I feel like if you're looking after yourself and looking after your mindset and your wellness, like, you got more of a chance of looking after your job, your members, your clients, all those sorts of things. So that's the way my simple mind works, but it's not always right.
That's good. It's hard to tie a bow in it all, but for Paywise maybe, and then I'll finish off with one last one with you. For Paywise, what's the future hold? We've done pretty well to, this podcast isn't meant to be this is everything we do and this is why Paywise is great, but what's the future hold? Like, what are goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? As a business? We've got
a strategy on a page, and on that strategy within 3 years, we want to be on panel for Australia's largest government organisation in New South Wales Government. So everything that we're doing and everything we have been doing in the last 12 months is building towards New South Wales Government panel. So that's incredibly bullish for me to say. It's the first time I've said that public. But that's essentially what we're working towards. But at the same time, we know that that's that end goal. Everything we're doing in relation to our culture piece and being that destination business for people within our industry to come to and look at us and go, hey, that high-performing team, when I said at the start, where people outside looking in, I want to be that high-performing team where people look outside and look in and go, shit, they're a pretty cool organisation. I'd love to work for them. That's what we want to be.
I like it. And what about Frank Agostino? What's the future hold for you? What do you look that far ahead? Are you short-sighted? Are you long-sighted?
I'm pretty short-sighted, Scully, to be honest. I'm I love the footy world. I do love the footy world. So one day I'd love to be working in footy in some way, shape or form. But right now in the next 2 or 3 years, I'm just so keen on, completing that goal of getting on a large government panel at Paywise and building the business in a way that outside looking in, it looks like a fantastic operation, which I think it is now.
I think that does us. You owe me a fish on a river or a boat somewhere. Yeah. I've been asking for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe we can continue the conversation privately.
We've got to do that.
But mate, it's been great publicly and for everyone to listen, the support that you personally, but Fleetwood Network into Paywise, backing us as a business very early. We were two blokes in the garage with a couple of microphones when we first started working together. It's good to get a bit on how you tick and back yourself. I think I'll just say it, this is the first interview we've done for it. I don't know if we'll air it first. Good to see how you stack up against everyone else.
Yeah, I reckon I'll struggle.
Mate, it's been brilliant, and hopefully you've found the process good.
Loved it. Thank you, mate. And the partnership is exactly that. So we're very fortunate to partner with BackChat. It's been a fantastic few years.
Good man. Go Paywise.
Good man.